So some fairly exciting news today for Orks and Custodes. We've just found out the contents of their new Combat Patrol box sets, and unlike the vast majority of 10th edition ones, we actually have more points in the box in both of them, even if the discounts might have gone down. In my opinion, the Custodes one looks kind of stand out great. Let's talk greenskins and golden boys and take a look at what we've got. Hello and welcome back to Warspecs Tactics, where today we're talking Orks and Custodes. It seems like these two factions are indeed coming for Warhammer 40k on the exact same weekend. Seems like it's going to be a very big week of news for the game. As per standard with Games Workshop's Sunday previews, they've basically showcased the products that are coming for the next week. We know that the new codexes and the new Battleforce box sets will all go live on Saturday the 13th of April to pre-order, and then they'll have the usual 2-week lag time compared with the actual full store release, which I guess is going to be from the 27th of April when you can get them in shops and things. I'll go through the Battleforces, codexes, and the other things prices in a separate video to this one, but for this one I really wanted to just jump on talking about those combat patrols, as Games Workshop have just posted the Orks and Custodes ones, and at least compared with the other 10th edition launches, I feel like there's at least some cause for positivity here. Both of them have still had their discounts slashed by a little bit as per the other ones, but there's actually more points in the box, so there's good argument that these kits are a bit better for actually getting a completed army on a board. Hopefully one of the next videos on the channel should be a price breakdown for the new Battleforce box sets. It'll be good to see how they stack up for the money versus the other things that Games Workshop have come out with. As ever with the Warhammer pre-orders, bear in mind the different places that you can get them at a discount. If you did want to pick up any of the Orks or Custodes that are coming this week at a discount, then I've got retailers linked in the video description for various places around the world, anywhere between 10 and 21% discount down there, and anything bought through those links does go to help support Warspecs Tactics and keep these videos coming, so a massive thank you to anyone choosing to buy through those. It is really appreciated. First up, let's talk about some golden boys, and this is the contents of the new Adeptus Custodes Combat Patrol, the one to replace the box set with the Virtus Praetors and Sisters of Silence in it. This one's very much a golden horde of foot custodians, honestly more than I was expecting in any one Combat Patrol kit from Games Workshop. In the box set you get a Blade Champion, 5 Custodian Guard, 3 Allarus Terminators, and 5 Custodian Wardens. I was honestly expecting that they would have something like some Sisters of Silence to maybe dilute down the points value of the box set, but it seems like there's none of that this time round. And apparently the way that they'll work for actual Combat Patrol games is that you'll be able to take a certain selection out of them as you can now, either swapping out Terminators or Wardens, but you don't get both. I'm really glad that for the Custodians at least they've decided to not just make the box set literally a Combat Patrol game only. It does look like this box is going to be a good brick in building a army of golden boys if you want them. For points in the box, adding those together and not even assuming any sort of extra special characters built, as all of the kits can build shield captains, either Terminator ones or Custodian Guard or Warden pattern ones. Even if you don't choose to assemble any of those squad commanders, you still get 790 points worth of Custodians in the box at current points costs. It's not impossible that could even go up in the future if Games Workshop feels that Custodes need some points adjustments, but that does part this pretty firmly as the single best Combat Patrol for getting points on the board, around about 5 points per dollar. That's massively on the upper end of what you get with normal 40k. I genuinely think that that's really quite good news, seeing as you're not exactly scrounging for every single point here. You could make that go up by building shield captains. This one's really going to cement the Custodes as a spectacularly cheap army to play if you want to get into a 40k army for minimal investment. You could literally pick up this Combat Patrol box and then say one box of Virtus Praetors or another box of infantry, and you'd literally have an 1,000 point army ready to go. Discount wise, the kits add up to £137.50, $220 or €182. That looks like it will be a 30% discount compared with Games Workshop standard pricing for these things, so it does seem to be about in line with what we've seen so far with other Warhammer 40k 10th edition Combat Patrols. That discount does look like it's on the upper end for them. I feel like we've seen a lot of them that vary anywhere between something like 15 or 30. So while it is a fair bit off their 9th edition Combat Patrol offering, it's still one of the best boxes of 10th edition so far, so about as good as we could really have hoped for on that front, I think. Given that it gets you 3 out of the 5 major plastic kits for the army and 1 of the plastic characters, really doesn't seem that bad at all. I feel like it would have been useful even if the discount was lower than this, but having it at 30% does seem really quite nice. You basically get slightly more than one kit free here. As you can tell, my overall thoughts on this one are really quite positive indeed. I think that this one will be very well received by Custodes collectors. As I was talking about with updating the combat patrols before, I was kind of suspecting that the Blade Champion might wind up being the hero choice. The Custodes box was kind of conspicuous for not actually coming with a hero, even if you do have the option to build shield captains out of the miniatures within. I guess in theory it does perhaps slightly lessen the repeat buy ability of this box set. Might just be not quite as helpful if you did pick up, say, 3 box set kits and get 3 different Blade Champions. That feels like it's overkill. Though I certainly wouldn't be against picking up a couple of these, and I might well do so for my own Custodes. As mentioned otherwise, the Custodes do only really have 5 major plastic kits in their lineup: the Terminators, Wardens, Guard, the Jet Bikes, and the Sisters of Silence, both of which featured in the previous Combat Patrol. Getting 3 out of the 5 major kits of the army seems like a real win in the Combat Patrol set. I'm glad they didn't decide to overly double up on anything, like just give you excessive Terminators or excessive Custodian Guard or something. So I think that the variety here is quite a nice mix. The Wardens haven't really been regularly discounted all that much besides in the upcoming Battleforce box set, so perhaps for some established Custodes players they might be a relatively helpful one to have in the box. Gameplay wise, currently literally all of these are pretty much top tier for the Custodes right now. They're the exact units that Custodes players are building around. I guess still be remaining to be seen whether or not that will remain to be the case in the new codex, but again, given not really many kits and these really are being the core of the army, it's hard to imagine that they'll be bad. I guess the only major downside is that acquiring Sisters of Silence and Jet Bikes will be a little bit more expensive in the future, though given that lots of people have had access to the past Combat Patrol already, I feel like they might well be at least fairly well represented in current people's collections anyway. This one is the old Custodes Combat Patrol now, currently in some slightly dodgy stock around the world, but not completely gone. It has vanished from the official Games Workshop web store though. This one got you 3 of the Virtus Praetor jet bikes, 5 Custodian Guard, and then 10 of the Sisters of Silence with their multi-build options. Again, due to the possibility of shield captains, this one could really vary in points cost depending on whether or not you make those characters. 560 points is the points cost without characters. If you build shield captains or the Knight Centura, then it goes up quite significantly. In terms of discount on the kits, these things would have cost you very slightly more than the new updated Combat Patrol box set would. Looks like the cost of these kits was £145 versus the £137 of the new, so a slight loss in discount there, but basically given that you're getting a plus 40% increase in points in the box, I genuinely think that the new one looks more useful than this. It's really quite nice to do one of these comparisons and actually have a positive metric. Literally every single one of the other Combat Patrols in 10th so far has got worse for both discount and the points in the box, so it's nice to see one that breaks the points metric in style. On top of that, the new one does work quite well with this box set. There's not really too much overlap in the units, and if you got both, you'd have really quite a nice well-rounded force. Use this one to get your Sisters of Silence and Jet Bikes, and then use the new one to get your Terminators and Wardens, and generally going to want a fair few Custodian Guard. There are a fair few of these still out in the wild at various discount retailers worldwide. Certainly a fair few of them are sold out. Just taking a very brief look, I noticed that Element Gamers, one of my affiliate links in the video description, does still have them for £81 in the UK. I know they tend to have at least fairly good stock of discount deals like this, but it will be a case of when they're gone, they're gone. I might pick up one more of these for myself for the future. That's certainly not all for today though, as we also have the Orks Combat Patrol set. It seems that this one is going Beast Snaggers for the 10th edition codex. This one's got the standard Beast Boss on foot, 2 sets of 10 Beast Snagger boys, the new Savage Orcs who specialise in taking down the monsters, and then the Squighog Boys kit, so that's 3 Squighog Boys, and also including the Knob with Smasher Squig, who's technically a different character option. In general, it's good news if you like your orcs from a bit more of a tribal or perhaps snakebite sort of theme. Maybe not quite as useful as the other one though if you like your looted vehicles or more standard boys. Points in the box for this one, they'd currently be 485 points in game. Again, that's on the upper end of recent Combat Patrol releases. Certainly compares very well to things like the AdMech box they got. It's around about 3 points per dollar, which is fairly good for Orks. In general, if you do just go buy the Games Workshop plastic kits, Orks can be maybe surprisingly expensive. The cost separately for these kits is kind of similar to the Custodes one really, £135, $225 or €177. it looks like it's around about a 29% discount, so to all intents and purposes the same sort of discount that you got from the Custodes kit, at least compared with buying separately. As with the Custodes, I feel like that's good enough news really, on the upper end of 10th boxes so far. For this one, I feel like the kits are nice enough, though I suspect that this one's going to be a little bit more mixed reception compared with the Custodes box set for Orcs players. It really does feel like an Orcs Beast Snagger sort of starter set, as opposed to just a standard Start Orcs box set. Really great if you do like the aesthetic, and I would argue that the miniatures that come within are really quite nice, high quality ones, and they are recent Orcs releases, but they just might not fit the theme and aesthetic of every single Orky army that people are trying to build around. It just feels to me like, compared with the previous Orc Combat Patrol box set, it doesn't really feel like quite as much of a central Orcs release, more sort of one niche subtype of them, that some people might be absolutely all about building around, other people might be a bit less so. At least for in-game power at the moment though, these are all usable units, they all fit in pretty well with the Orc melee rush that they like to do. Beast Snaggers may be piling out of transports alongside that Beast Boss, who can be one of the better units for taking down enemy heavy hitters. The Squig boys are just kind of hard to take down with the feel no pains, and the Smasher Squig is all rather brutal with Head Whopper's Kill Chopper. He can be a fun little murder machine with that. Again, this one's very likely to get weighed up against the old Orcs Combat Patrol box set. In this one you got the War Boss with the Mega Armor, 20 boys of the more regular variety. Though it was the kit that was kind of controversial in that you didn't get your choice of the shooters or the choppers, which annoyed some people. 3 flying scrap machines in the Death Copters, and the Death Dread, which was a slightly older kit at this point. Unlike the Custodes, this one does represent a fairly significant drop in discount, I think. This one had around about £167 worth of models versus the new one's 135. Maybe not too hard to see where that's going really. The two box sets do seem all fairly analogous really. You have your boss and your boys, your sort of heavy cavalry type unit in Death Copters or Squig Hogs. The only major swap out is that you lose that Smasher Squig but gain an entire Death Dread. So basically a carrot's choice versus a big war machine. That's why the box set has lost a bit of discount compared with its past version. In spite of that, the points in the box are pretty much the same. They have actually increased very slightly, going up from 470 to 485, at least at current points costs at time of recording. There's no saying that that might not change a fair bit with Orcs releases down the line though. Again though, I guess like the Custodes, it doesn't have any overlap in terms of miniatures, so if you did pick up old Combat Patrol Orcs, you could completely easily expand it with a new one. You would maybe be getting yourself into a fairly green tidy Orc force though there, with a big 40 boys to have the core of your army. Not the worst thing in the world, but not everyone likes to collect Hoardy. Again, this one's gone from a whole load of suppliers out there. If you do want to pick one up sort of soon, then I'd try and check around at various discount retailers. Again, having a quick check on my discount retailers, it looks like Element in the UK might be out of them now. Fenris Workshop in Canada does still seem to have some, so it could be one option if you happen to live over there. Overall though, broadly speaking, I feel like those two combat patrols are neither of them quite as bad as they could have been. The Orc one maybe does feel like a slight downgrade, but I think it just really is going to be a matter of personal preference as to whether or not you wanted mechanical Orcs or Squig type Orcs. For some people they might like it a lot more, for some people a lot less. The Custodes one, I feel like it is going to be a really popular move. People tend to collect Custodes for the actual Custodians and not the Sisters of Silence, so having it really focus on them is big, and getting that many points in a combat patrol really is standout. They're going to be coming alongside the Orc Stomper Boys and the Auric Champions, which hopefully I'll make a video talking about the prices of in the not too distant future. Should be interesting to weigh up how much value they are. I must admit at first take, for me, for someone who has a collection of both of these armies, I'm actually more interested in the combat patrol sets for both of these more so than the Battleforces now. Particularly for the Custodes one, where I was thinking about that Battle Force, but I feel like I'm more likely to get the combat patrol over this now. In any case, let me know your thoughts. Would you be tempted to pick up the combat patrols? How do you think they weigh up against the battle forces? Look forward to hearing your thoughts down in the comments. As mentioned, if you did want to pick up any of these via the links in the video description, it does save a significant amount of money versus buying from the Games Workshop web store, and also a small amount goes to help support Auspex Tactics without costing you any more when you buy stuff. I give them a check when pre-orders go live on Saturday. Should be 10 AM for Element Games in the UK. I think it's usually midnight for Wargame Portal and Fenris between the Friday and Saturday. In any case though, an absolutely massive thank you for listening. Look forward to hearing your thoughts and ideas, and feel free to stay tuned for the next one where I'll hopefully talk about some prices. Finally, if you've enjoyed the video and you'd like to help support, I would just like to mention, as well as those affiliate links and things, there is also the channel's Patreon page as well, and that's the main thing that allows me to make these videos quite so regularly, being on standby for 40k news and things. Channel patrons do get a few advantages, seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things happen next on the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with a chance to win some big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support, the link is down in the video description. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.